Hi, my name's Nevaeh, and I'll be going over the impact of social media on mental health. Have you ever found yourself scrolling through your social media feed only to feel anxious, overwhelmed, or even worse, like you're not measuring up? You're definitely not alone in the feeling this way. Many people experience the same emotions every day. Today, we're going to explore how social media affects our mental health. We'll take a closer look at both good and negative impacts these platforms can have on our emotional well-being. As someone who has researched the connection between social media and mental health, I'm passionate about helping others understand these platforms that can influence how we feel and think. It's important to recognize the effects, both good and bad, in order to inform decisions about how we engage with social media. In this session, we'll begin by discussing the negative impacts like anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues that can arise from the excessive use of social media. Why is the impact of social media on mental health important? For one, comparison and self-esteem. Social media often showcases idealized lives, leading to unhealthy comparisons and damaging self-esteem. Second is cyberbullying. Online harassment is easier and more widespread, which can significantly harm mental health. Third is addiction and overuse. Excessive screen time disrupts real-life interactions and sleep, contributing to anxiety and depression. Fourth is a thing called fear of missing out, as known as FOMO. Constant updates about other activities can create feelings of exclusion and anxiety. And lastly, echo chambers and misinformation. Exposure to only like-minded views can increase stress, division, and spread false information. Why social media can lead to higher risk of depression. Here's a video demonstrating it.
We're in the middle of a youth mental health crisis in America. This is the defining public health challenge of our time, and I'm very concerned that social media has become an important contributor to the pain and struggles that many of our young people are facing.
The question that everyone wants to answer is, does social media negatively impact mental health?
We have to remember that social media is not one thing. It's depending on who you're talking to, what content you're seeing, what functions you're interacting with, a like button, for instance.
The impact social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have on the public, notably teens, is unquestioned. But what's still at play is how much of that impact is negative.
We saw a big decrease in teen mental health, increase in depression, which was pretty well time-locked to when social media got really big and when it became super engaging.
That year or two, as puberty is just beginning, is the second most important time for adolescent brain development, reorganization, for our entire lives. And there's a lot of growth and a lot of changes that are happening at the precise time that we're actually handing them a device that we know makes their brain react in unexpected and dramatic ways. Two things that happen to occur at the same time are not causally related to one another. So we can see some mechanistic pieces and some signs, but we can't make causal statements as scientists.
In a recent CDC study from 2011 to 2021, when social media use was booming, the percentage of teen girls who reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness increased by nearly 60%.
It's hard to do an experiment that fully captures the effect of Facebook and all of the network effects where, me being on Facebook affects my friends. It's just really hard to study.
We don't want to wait until we have the most conclusive proof that demonstrates with causality what the harms will be. Because the time that it takes for science to do that kind of work will lose an entire generation or two.
Despite that sentiment, a study released last month from the University of Oxford found no evidence linking individual Facebook data to a negative well-being. That study, however, was specifically for Facebook, not Instagram, where the demographic tends to skew younger.
Unfortunately, the state of data sharing in 2023 is worse than it was in 2022 and 2021. Companies have largely sort of en masse closed databases and APIs that were used by academics to understand what sort of behavior was like on the platforms.
API, or Application Programming Interface, allows third parties to communicate with its product. In the past year, Reddit has started charging for API integration, and X, formerly known as Twitter, has largely shut down its access.
Very few platforms are more open today than they have been in the past. I would pass legislation to make data access a lot easier and more robust so that we can get answers in real time to have the evidence that they need in order to do their work sort of effectively.
We'll ever know whether social media was net good or net bad. I think it was probably net good, to be honest. And I think we have pretty strong evidence that even if it might have been net good for most people on average, it seems to have been net bad for teenagers, particularly teenagers, say from, age 10 to 14.
This is a time when we're saying as a community, we have to pay attention. We have to do something different immediately. This is an urgent scenario right now.
When reached for comment, Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, Google, which owns YouTube, and TikTok all stressed the importance of teen mental health and highlighted the measures each platform is taking to restrict content and safeguard teen well-being.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here.
We're in the middle of a youth mental health crisis in America.
Consequences of too much screen time. For one, increased anxiety. Constant exposure to social media and news can lead to stress and feelings of being overwhelmed. Two is depression. Overuse, especially of social media, has been linked to lower moods and feelings of isolation. Third is reduced attention span. The constant switching between apps or tabs can make it harder to focus the extended periods. Fourth, sleep disturbances. Excessive screen time, especially before bed, can interfere with sleep quality because of the blue light exposure. Fifth, impaired social skills. Spending more time online rather than engaging in face-to-face interactions can affect communication abilities. Reduced memory retention. Studies suggest that excessive screen time can negatively affect short and long-term memory. What would happen if social media did not exist?
What happens if there's no social media? Have you ever imagined how our life could be without social media? Undoubtedly, today's society is addicted to social media and heavily reliant on the internet and the technologies that enable it to function. Without it, almost no aspect of our lives would be the same. We can recall a time before the internet, but it was not as prevalent as it is today until the 1990s. Even then, it was much slower and had less power than now. If we tried to imagine the world without social media, we would have to examine every aspect of our lives and how we have changed as individuals and society due to the internet, mainly social media. We must admit that since its inception, social media has become so ubiquitous that almost no one can live without it. If you track how much time you spend on social media each day, you will discover that you spent almost the entire day on it. It became a part of your daily life and work. Sometimes it altered how you did your job. Even though we all spend most of our time on social media, sometimes we need a break from it. What if that break went for too long? Or what if social media never existed? Have you ever thought about that? Let's see what would happen if there was no social media. Economy and jobs. You can't deny the impact of social media on the global economy, whether you like it or dislike it. Social media specialists, writers, photographers, and designers are examples of digital jobs. People from all walks of life can find social media-related jobs online. There may be more unemployment, fewer economic opportunities, and fewer people working in fields they enjoy if it didn't exist. The job market has changed due to social media, and more people are pursuing their passions online, resulting in a more positive work environment. What happens if there's no social media? Have you ever imagined how our life could be without social media? Undoubtedly, today's society is addicted to social media and heavily reliant on the internet and the technologies that enable it to function. Without it, almost no aspect of our lives would be the same. We can recall a time before the internet, but it was not as prevalent as it is today until the 1990s. Even then, it was much slower and had less power than now. If we tried to imagine the world without social media, we would have to examine every aspect of our lives and how we have changed as individuals and society due to the internet.
Due to the short time, I will have to cut that one short, but it does go over the same thing as why as social media did not exist, our lives would be so much different and our human beings would be more energized. Tips and tricks. Some things that can help with reducing depression or stress because of social media will be to set time limits. Use apps or built-in phone features to limit your social media usage. Set a timer or goal for how long you'll be on social media each day. Turn off your notifications. Disable non-essential notifications to prevent constant distractions and feelings of urgency. Take social media breaks. Regularly disconnect from social media, whether it's for a few hours or a day. Use the time to focus on activities that recharge you. Practice mindful scrolling. Pay attention to how you feel when scrolling. If someone makes you feel upset or says something negative, stop and take a break. Be aware of how content affects your mood. Limit social media before bed. Avoid using social media in the hour before sleep to improve both mental and physical health, including better sleep quality. Avoid comparison. Remember, if the social media often shows a created, idolized version of people's lives, everyone has their own struggles that aren't visible online. Conclusion. A good conclusion would be to set boundaries. Establish limits on time and frequency of social media use to avoid it taking over your day. Create content. Follow accounts that bring positivity, inspiration, and value to your life, and remove anything that triggers negative emotions of comparison. Engage consciously. Be international with your interactions, opting for meaningful conversations and passive scrolling. Disconnect regularly. Give yourself regular breaks from social media to recharge and focus on offline activities that promote well-being. Practice self-compassion. Remember to be kind to yourself, recognizing that what you see online is often a highlight reel and not an accurate portrayal of reality. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Here are some websites that I used. But as we come to an end, on today's webinar, I want to leave you with this key takeaway. Social media has a profound effect on our mental health, both positive and negative. While it can foster connections and provide support, it can also fuel anxiety, depression, and feeling down. Understanding the impact is crucial, as it empowers us to use these platforms more mindfully and in a way that enhance rather than harm our emotional well-being. Thank you for listening today. I hope you have a deeper understanding of what social media and how it affects mental health, and I encourage you to apply these insights to make cautious choices about your online habits moving forward.